Coming up on Mountain News this morning, Kentucky lawmakers will have another chance to tackle pension reform. And the Kentucky Horse Racing Commission hopes to see some changes to make the sport safer. We have those details. And lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing to regulate trampoline parks amid mounting concern over their risks.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 6:31 on Wednesday, April the 10th. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning in to Mountain News This Morning. Yesterday, it was a foggy start. This morning, it's the exact opposite. Brandon will give you a better breakdown of what to expect as you head to work this morning. Brandon?
And it's going to be a good morning for you. A little cold, a little chilly. Well, I won't say cold, I'll say a little bit chilly. So grab the jacket as you head out the door this morning. But for the most part, we are in pretty good shape. Let's go to Hazard outside the WYMT studios this morning. And you can see not a whole lot of action as you head through the first part of your day. We're going to continue to see again a nice start to the day. Not even clouds in the sky this morning. Live pinpoint Doppler radar. Nice clean sweeps. And that's going to be the trend for the next couple of days. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end. That's going to be our case on Friday. 40 in Monticello, 52 in Jackson. That's the warmest spots, or the range there, this region, coldest and warmest spots in the region. 12-hour planner today, sunrise at 7:06, sunset now after 8 o'clock, but 73 our forecast high. Could get a touch above that in some areas. Full forecast on the way here in just a few minutes. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, Kentucky lawmakers will have another chance to tackle pension reform. Governor Bevin has called for a special session. That is after he vetoed a bill that would offer some pension relief. The bill had nothing to do with teacher pensions. Instead, it focused on some universities and quasi-public agencies like health departments.
But the services that these quasis provide are more important to me than care is getting paid as quickly as they'd like to be paid. And I'd rather the services not be faced with potential cuts to either the services themselves or the staff that provide them.
In the letter outlining his veto, the governor said the bill was passed with good intentions but added too much strain to the state's pension deficit. Governor Bevin said the special session will start before July 1st. The Kentucky Horse Racing Commission hopes to see some changes to make the sport a little safer. A committee of state lawmakers reviewed new regulations yesterday. One of those proposals expands out-of-competition testing and expands the scope of what substances aren't allowed. Another is the voided claim rule. It is designed to encourage trainers to run only healthy horses in claims races.
We know on the out-of-competition testing and the voided claim rule that this hits the most vulnerable part of the horse population in training.
The chairman of the Administrative Regulation Review Subcommittee said they meet again next month if the commission needs to make any changes to the new rules. Well, Attorney General William Barr broke his silence about the Mueller report, telling a House committee a redacted version of it would soon be released. Nicole Killian reports from Capitol Hill.
Attorney General William Barr was on Capitol Hill Tuesday. It was his first public appearance since Special Counsel Robert Mueller submitted his report on Russian interference in the 2016 election. Barr told the House Appropriations Committee that a redacted version of the report would soon be available.
My original timetable of being able to release this by mid-April stands.
Democrats criticized the Attorney General's handling of the report, starting with the letter he sent Congress.
All we have is your 4-page summary, which seems to cherry pick from the report to draw the most favorable conclusion possible for the president.
Barr explained why it took only 2 days to produce an outline of Mueller's findings.
The thinking of the special counsel was not a mystery to the people at the Department of Justice prior to his submission of the report.
The Attorney General had been summoned to Capitol Hill to discuss his department's budget, but the hearing kept coming back to the Mueller report.
No collusion, no obstruction. It's over. It's done. It's over.
Well, the letter speaks for itself.
I thought it did too.
Democrats have been threatening to subpoena the Mueller report and all of its underlying documents. They say they're now waiting to see how much the Attorney General decides to redact from it. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Now, Attorney General Barr is due to return to Congress today for an appearance before a Senate Appropriations Committee. Well, Kentucky Senator and Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell weighed in on the debate on whether to make the Mueller report public or not. Here is what he had to say.
Do we really think it's fair to put out classified information or to throw innocent people under the bus? I trust the Attorney General to give us all of the information that we need without revealing classified information or putting out the names of people whose reputations could be ruined who did nothing wrong. So I think it really gets down to a question whether you trust Bill Barr or not. And I do, and I think he will get us a report that is as open as possible, as soon as possible.
Well, moving on, 2 construction companies were awarded funding to build a wall at the U.S. southern border. Tuesday, the Defense Department announced nearly $1 billion in funds have been contracted out for wall construction. The biggest contract, worth $789 million, went to a Texas-based construction company. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers wants them to build 46 miles of 30-foot bollard fencing in Santa Teresa, New Mexico. A $187 million contract went to a Montana-based construction company. The project should be completed in October of 2020. Moving on to international news this morning, Benjamin Netanyahu appears heading towards a historic 5th term as Israel's prime minister. Netanyahu fought a tight race against ex-Army Chief Benny Gantz. Close to complete unofficial election results also show the prime minister and another nationalist and religious parties hold a solid majority in parliament. The country now faces what could be weeks of political negotiations over the composition of a ruling coalition. A gun manufacturer is asking the Supreme Court to take on a lawsuit involving the families of Sandy Hook victims. Last month, the Connecticut Supreme Court allowed a lawsuit against Remington to move forward. Remington manufactured the Bushmaster AR-15 rifle that the gunman used in the 2012 shooting. Now, Remington wants the High Court to rule on the state's interpretation of a federal statute giving gun manufacturers immunity from lawsuits linked to injuries from criminal misuse. Lawmakers on Capitol Hill are pushing to regulate trampoline parks amid mounting concern over their risks. There have been several deaths since 2012, and the government says emergency room visits associated with the parks increased 600% over a 5-year period. Trampoline expert Don McPherson has testified in hundreds of plaintiff cases against said trampoline parks.
What kind of injuries do these cases involve?
2 broken necks, half a dozen open tib fib fractures, a couple broken ankles, a couple open fractured elbows.
The world's largest trampoline park company, Circus Tricks, told us in a statement that, as with any sport, there are inherent risks, but they are committed to ongoing safety evaluations and take numerous measures to reduce risk at their parks. Well, South Carolina lawmakers passed a rideshare safety bill named after the USC student who was killed after getting into a vehicle that she thought was her Uber. The Samantha L. Josephson Ride Sharing Safety Act would require rideshare vehicles to display illuminated signs. The goal is to make it easier for riders to identify Uber and Lyft vehicles. The bill passed the South Carolina House 99-1. It now moves to the state Senate. On Tuesday, students in Florida honored a victim killed in the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School mass shooting. Former athletic director Chris Hickson lost his life trying to disarm the shooter in the February 2018 rampage. Students at South Broward High paid tribute to Hickson with a day of service in his honor. Hickson's son was present for the event. Veterans from all generations came out to meet Senator Bob Dole in Kansas. The 95-year-old former lawmaker and 3-time presidential candidate visited the VA center that bears his name in Wichita. Dole shook hands with the people who came out to see him. The senator, a longtime champion for veterans' rights, had this to say during his visit.
Well, I say first, thank you for your service. And whenever I visit veterans, I try to see if they're getting adequate care.
Now, Senator Dole is a veteran himself. He was seriously injured while serving as an Army lieutenant in World War II. Several other World War II veterans and even a member of the Rosie the Riveters group were in attendance. Well, aides from the Dalai Lama said Tuesday that he has been hospitalized with a chest infection. That is according to CNN affiliate News 18 in India. The Tibetan spiritualist, leader and Buddhist monk is 83 years old. His private secretary told News 18 the Dalai Lama complained of discomfort after returning home following a trip to New Delhi. The secretary said the Dalai Lama will spend the next 2 or 3 days in the hospital. Well, it's 6:41. Let's toss it over to Brandon, who will give you what to expect as you walk out the door on this Wednesday.
Should be a fairly nice day across the board. Mountain Parkway at Slade starting to get daylight enough now where we can see the camera. Not much traffic moving along early this morning. We go to UVA Wise and things are fairly quiet over there as well. Now daylight starting to break in Southwest Virginia. We're looking at live pinpoint Doppler radar. Nice clean sweeps this morning. Temperatures anywhere between 40 in Monticello to 52 up in Jackson. Those ridges a touch warmer this morning. So a normal day on the coffee meter. Not a whole lot of extra needed. Out the door forecast for you. You will see temperatures climbing with the sunshine into the low to mid 70s. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. And thank you for joining us for Mountain News this morning. We will have a pet from a local animal shelter looking for a good home in the studio in just a couple of minutes.